So now that we have this, I want to bring in the guts of my resume or any kind of body copy that is going to be part of this design. And I'm assuming everybody's resume is done in Word. So if you want to get that content from your Word resume and put it into your InDesign resume, the easiest way is to file and place it. First thing we're going to do before we do that is we're going to make sure that there's no formatting going on. So let's go to paragraph styles and make sure that basic paragraph is selected. And we're going to go to character styles and make sure none is selected. And then what we're going to do is we're going to file and place, and you'll look for your Word document. I just happen to have this dummy copy right here, and we want to strip out any formatting that Microsoft Word has given this type. And to do that, we're going to hold our Shift key down and double click on this. And what that does is that brings up this Microsoft Word importing options dialog box. And it allows us to say if there's a table of contents, include that, footnotes, endnotes, index text, any of that is included. Use typographer's quotes. Those are the curly quotes as opposed to the straight quotes. Straight quotes are foot markers and inch markers, but you want typographer quotes, which are the curly that curl in at the beginning and at the end. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to click on Remove Styles and Formatting and then click OK. And then we get this box right here, this icon, and we can just click and hold and drag a box like so and bring it in like this. So this is not resume type, this is just a portion of an article, and I just wanted to show you some of the things that can be done with this type. So we have paragraphs, we have the type is set. Let's go to the T tool over here. So the type is set to 12 on 14. Now everybody that has done any kind of an essay for class, they've always done it 12 on 14. Well, we're not going to do that. 12 on 14 is good for when you give something to a teacher and they make notes and it's easier for them to read. But we want to stylize this body copy as if it was a professional resume. And so we would never have anything above 12 point. So notice that I am not highlighting anything. I clicked on the box with the black pointer and then I went to the T tool, because as we apply a different point size to this, readable body copy is good between like 9 and 11 point for print. So that's way too big. Let's go down to 11 and then let's go down to 10, go down to 9. So you can see the difference as we click on these arrows. And the reason I'm doing it this way as opposed to highlighting it is the fact that when this came in, notice this little red plus sign down here. This means that there is an overset, meaning that there is more type than the box can fill, or than the box can fit. So if we highlighted our type like this, we may be missing some type underneath here. So anytime you want to apply something, you never apply it totally by dragging this. You could do edit, select all, and that will select everything, even the stuff that's hidden in this box. Or we could go and go to the black pointer, which gives us our handles around the edge, and then go to the T tool, and that brings up our different type styles. So we can change the typeface to, say, New Baskerville Old Face, and this just has one font family member, and that's regular, so let's go with that. And so this is the point size, and let's bring that down to 11. So notice that we don't have anything beyond again. So if I highlight this, notice that there's an extra return there, and that was the overset. There was an extra return at the end of this particular story. So we could actually delete. So now when we highlight this, it doesn't go below this line. let's go back to the black pointer and then go back to the T tool, and let's make this 10 point. Now this right here is the default for leading. Leading is the amount of space between lines, and these parentheses around the 12 point is saying that InDesign is giving this a formatted or a default leading. And their default leading in InDesign is basically 120% of whatever the point size is. So if it's 10 point, then the leading is going to be 12 point. Let's see what happens when I add more leading to this. You can see that it airs things out a little bit more. Sometimes I think that's a little bit extreme, but going 10 on 12 may not be what you want. You may want to add more leading. White space is our friend. Let's see some of the other things. This is all caps. This is a superscript. This is done for mathematical problems. This underlines your type. This is a small case, so let's highlight Darren and show you what that looks like. Highlight Darren with the black pointer, go to the T tool, and go to small caps. And so that's what that looks like. I'm not a big fan of that, so I'm going to turn that back off again. Let's go back to the body copy and go back to the T tool and look at some of the other stuff. There's a strike through. We know what this is. This is kerning, and kerning is basically done for display type. You never have to deal with anything like that in your body copy. Tracking, every once in a while somebody will want to track some space into the body copy, but my suggestion is to leave this alone when designing body copy. You never use this. This will scale type out of proportion, and you know that scaling type out of proportion is a big no-no. This also will scale type out of proportion, which is also a big no-no. This one right here will create a fake italic, so we never want to use this either. And this is a baseline shift. So the baseline is where the type lands on the box. So you can see that the baseline is right here where the D touches and the A and the R. I don't have any descenders. Say if I had a G, so you can see that overset. I don't want a lowercase g. So the baseline is where the D lands, not where the descender lands. So I'll go back, change that back to an N. Tighten that up. So what is baseline shift? Baseline shift is, say I want my name, all the lowercase letters of my name to be aligned to the top of the D. Well, we could do this with baseline shift by, wrong direction, going like this, and moving that baseline for those letters up to the top of my D. Let's hit the W key and look at that. Okay. I don't use baseline shift that often, if ever. If I want to do something like that, I might take the last part of my name, cut it, Command X or Edit, cut, and then create a new text box, and then go Edit, Paste. I'm going to suck that up nice and tight. I'll take this D and I'll suck that up nice and tight, and then I will take this and kind of like move it around and position it where I want it to be positioned. So you'll be having some mini projects where you're going to be moving type around, and instead of using baseline shift, just break it up into individual little text boxes and move it around as you want it. It's a lot easier to move this around like this than it is to do the baseline shift. So let's go back down to the body copy, go to the T tool, and so there's baseline shift. So this right here are character formatting controls. This right here are paragraph formatting controls. So you can create, you can do different things to the paragraph as a whole. So let's click on paragraph formatting controls. And so right now we have a flush left, ragged right. We can make it flush center. That's not very readable. You can do flush right. That's not very readable. This is towards the spine. These are all talking about facing pages, and we don't need to worry about that. Justified, justified. This is true justification, and you can see the nastiness that happens when you justify type. My suggestion is you stay with align left. That looks the best in a resume. Let's see, other things that you can do. You could column. I can go like that. Say I want one pica on the left side and maybe one pica on the right side. And so this type is inset a little bit from the rest of it. Change that back. Let's go back to the T tool. This is your first line indent, and so this is when you have stories with paragraphs. You would indent the type for where each paragraph is. So you can see I'm adding more space right here. And so you can see where each paragraph is. That's what that first line indent is. Last line indent, I never use that, so don't worry about it. This is a drop cap, and so if I take this, highlight this H right here, I can have a drop cap, and this number is the amount of lines that it has become, how deep the drop cap is by the amount of lines it takes up. And this is the amount of letters that you want to be the drop cap. Right now we have 1, but if we want all of here's as the drop cap, you just add more characters to this. So I don't need that. I don't need that. This space before and space after is very important. Say you want to have different sections of your resume and you want more space between one line and the next. I see a lot of students adding, like putting their cursor here and adding leading to it to make it bigger. But all you need to do is put your cursor at the very end. If I want more space between winter and management, I would put my cursor here and change it like that with space after. If you wanted some space between and sections, you could do space after by putting your cursor at sections, or you could do space before by putting your cursor at and. I just tend to do a lot of space after. I don't do a lot of space before, but sometimes I do. This is a bulleted list. This is a numbered list. This is your formatting. Here's hyphenation. Usually for a resume, I tell students to turn hyphenation off. Let's go back to the black pointer and then go back to the T tool so that this is applied to the whole thing. So just turning hyphenation off looks better. The only time I ever have hyphenation on is if I'm doing a story, like a magazine article or a newspaper article. But small amounts of content usually don't need to be hyphenated. This is the number of columns. So say this is a story and my magazine has 3 columns of copy. That's what that does right there. This is the size of the gutters, which is this little space right here, and you can make that gutter size even bigger. So I don't need any of that. I don't need that. Usually it's 1p. This is spanning columns. I never usually use that. Horizontal curve.